We're live. Oh, welcome back, everyone, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 202. We have another fantastic guest. Stay tuned.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
And we are back for episode 102, or I'm sorry, 202. What is it? Season 2? Season 2, episode 2. Something like that. I don't even know how to say 202. But yes, welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt. We have Alan Lopez, our guest, a fellow podcaster, a fellow GAF guy, a fellow trainer, a coach, all the good stuff that we're all trying to do, self-improvement professionally, all that good stuff. So, Alan, how the hell are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Ty. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, you're welcome, man. So thank you very much. I think I was on your podcast a couple few weeks ago. It was my turn to tell my story a little bit. I think this time I'm going to let you do some talking this time because I felt like I took your show hostage there a little bit with the fantastic questions that you gave me. Some things that we haven't talked about for a long time, like basically how our podcast got started. And some things, professionally and personal stuff that you're asking me. So, I guess let's dive right into this. Like, how, I guess let's go back to your beginning of your GAF days. Let's go back there and how did you find GAF, or how did GAF find you?
Wow, that's really going back in time a few years now. But it was actually by luck, by mistake, by I don't know, by anything but intended, if you will. So when I was in college, I had a good friend of mine. His brother had a roofing company in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I grew up and went to school, and I helped them every once in a while with roofing, whether it was to do sales or simply help with the crews, pick them up, whatnot during the summers, and then that really made up my mind about roofing. I thought I would never do roofing. I would never do this industry. I finished college, went the corporate route. I was always a corporate trainer. Original when I went to school, I wanted to be a high school teacher. I wanted to be a Spanish teacher, a history teacher. I soon realized that didn't pay. At the same time, I was working for a credit card company call center in Salt Lake City. You might heard of them, Discover Card. And I was a trainer for Discover Card. So I was training at the same time that I was finishing my degree. I was training adults how to answer the phone, how to work the systems, etc. And so I quickly realized that I was making more money doing that than I was going to be making as a teacher. So I stuck with the training, worked for another company for another 6 years. And it came through a crossroads. My family was growing at the time. I had 4 kids. I just had my fourth kid. And I was traveling for this other company 2 weeks. I was traveling two weeks a month. But the trainings that I was doing, I was going to not very desirable places. I was going to El Paso, Texas, which I love now, but not then. I was going to Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. Who wants to be in Des Moines, Iowa for 2 weeks? I don't care who you are, right? And
Right.
then Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. The only thing that Augusta, Georgia has that I like was the golf course, the Masters, nothing else, for 2 weeks. And so my wife and I came to a crossroads. What do we do? And so I started looking for a job. This is going to resonate with you, maybe not with the half of our audience, but you remember monsters.com?
Oh yeah. Yep. I
The,
remember.
so I went to monsters.com to find a job,
Oh,
and I put trainer on the search. And the first job that came out was GAF care trainer.
mm,
I have heard of GAF because through my friend's company, but I didn't know what a care trainer was. So I read the description. I I read the requirements, and they require 3 things. They require that they knew roofing, that they knew how to train, and that they were bilingual. So I took a chance and I said, well, you know what? I have 2 out of the 3. I'm bilingual. I've trained for the last 12 years. I have enough experience. So I'm going to go ahead and apply. And either they didn't have anybody else who was applying, and I was the last resource, or I was really good. I don't know. So I remember at the IRE in 2010 in New Orleans, they asked me to come down for an interview in person. So I went and interviewed with the care team. Back then, the care team had only 5 people. Okay, so I interviewed with my boss now and our director at the time and the other trainers, and they liked me. Within a matter of a week, they made me an offer to come work for them, to which I ended up accepting it. And in 2010, this is not a joke,
mhm.
starting day was April 1st
Wow.
at GAF 2010. And I started covering the West Coast, the Intermountain area and the West Coast as a care trainer for GAM 2010.
Wow. That's crazy. So for those of us that are viewing this, or for those of them that are watching or viewing this, explain to us what care is.
Yeah, so CARE is the educational arm of GAF. So what GAF realized many years ago, before my time, was that there was a gap in the industry.
Mhm.
Every manufacturer will sell product. Every manufacturer will say their product is the best, and we continue to do that to this day. But there was a gap in the workmanship of the contractor, of the installer. And so as a tool, at the same time that we're starting their contractor program during the same time. And so one of the benefits, I guess you could say, or one of the values that GAA was adding is like, hey, listen, let's create this organization within the company of trainers that come from the roofing industry, that have owned a business, that have inspected roofs, that have installed roofs, that really want to pass their knowledge on to the next generation. And that's how we started. We started thinking this is going to be an installation only platform, but we're only going to train installers how to install roofs. And over the years, the care program has evolved, where we've gone from being very, very involved in the installation processes for commercial and residential to very involved in sales processes understanding our own products and helping on contractors understand products, understand warranties. I mean, I've trained anything from leadership trainings now to contractors. So over the years, the CARE program has evolved in residential, commercial, more on the road, trailer trainings with our commercial trainers, in-home selling, to the point that we've also added a few years back, we added the roofing academy to continue with that, pursuing, finding those individuals that didn't have an opportunity, maybe an employment opportunity, maybe people that are coming, they're being integrated back into society from being in prison, and helping them get developed and get some skills in them. So we do all that. And so for now, at least for me, almost 14 years, that's what we've been doing. And I know Carrie's been around for twice as that. So now we're almost 40 trainers and counting.
Wow.
So our sole purpose is to help the contractor and anybody that wants to learn anything that they want about roofing. We probably can do it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I got 100 questions in my head going through my head right now, but I can probably only remember one of them because I really wanted to listen to what you were saying. And what stands out to me is the type of person that you are, right? Like it takes a genuine, empathetic person to want to teach, to want to train. So what would you say, or who would you say inspired you the most, right? Like, was there an individual, a parent, an employer, or somebody that kind of inspired you to want to be a teacher, a coach, or a leader?
Well, there's several people that come to mind. I've been very blessed. I'm not going to lie. I've been very blessed in being connected to the right people at the right time in my life. That helped me kind of steer into the right path and not going into a rabbit hole, right? But I think if I can think of a couple of people, number one, I think my dad, who I call my dad, but it's really my stepdad, right? When I came to this country, I was 16 years old with my mom and my sister. I didn't know much English. We met this guy at the time. He was my mom worked for him, and he was a very smart individual. He had his own business for many years. He worked as a collector, so he owned a collection company, and so he taught me business. He taught me I remember this phrase. Many years after he had retired, we were at a dinner. I think it was like a Christmas dinner at a country club, right? And he's eavesdropping on the people on the table next to us conversation, and he even stops my mom from talking. He's like, "Hey, I want to hear." So he turns out and starts talking to these individuals, how they were going through some hard times, collecting from it was a doctor, collecting from their clients. And mind you, he's been retired for now at this point for like 15 years. His son still manages the business, and he's getting clients for his son, right? He stops conversation and goes. So he comes back to the table and he says to me, is when you love what you do, you are never working.
Mm-hmm.
You have a desire to pass along what you know. And so he taught me from a young age, I say young age, my early 20s, to really find what made me happy and what gave me satisfaction. And to me, that's one of the reasons I went originally into high school teaching, right? But I also wanted to provide for a family, so I changed directions. So that was one. See, so he taught me the passion. The other person that I'm very thankful for the things that I've been able to accomplish, the love that I have for this industry. It's a good friend of mine. He still works for GAF here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His name is Lance Hoagland. And that guy, when I first moved to Minnesota, him and I started to travel the entire upper Midwest together we did that for 2.5, 3 years. And he taught me a lot of valuable lessons on compassion, understanding, and opportunity. And I don't know if that makes sense as a trainer, but to me, he taught me, it's like, listen, you might be a training, a trainer, but at the end of the day, we all work for the same company and we all want the same. We want the best things for our contractors. We want the best. We want them to succeed, because if they don't succeed, we don't succeed. And you have an integral part in that success. You are the voice, and if you don't love what you do as the voice, might as well don't do it. And so I quickly realized that I had an opportunity to really share my talents and my values and the values of GAF with whoever will give me an opportunity. So those two people, I think, are for me the most important in my career as as it's progressed over the years.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that story. And I love how you pointed out, the individual and the individuals that have helped you and steered you in the right direction. Because there are some people. It's very humbling, for you, and it shows a lot of the type of person and the character that you are. Because a lot of people would, and maybe not a lot of people, but I have heard people say, I'm a self-made man, right? But to hear your first response to my question is, oh man, where do I start? Man, there's been so many people that have influenced, impacted my life in a way that I felt like I needed to reciprocate that, to others, that caring, that training, that coaching that you talk about so much. So let's talk a little bit about, like, your podcast here a little bit. But I guess my question for you would be, like, so with starting a podcast, do you think your experience with training inspired you to want to reach more people by doing a podcast?
Absolutely, I think so. I think opportunity is everything, right? And I think most of us found ourselves in this little dilemma in 2020. Um,
Mm,
I could not go train. I
mhm,
could not go see contractors, which is by that point, I've been doing this for almost 10 years and I couldn't do it. And so think about it. When you have an individual who's been traveling for 10 years, almost every week, being in front of somebody, and all of a sudden you cut that out abruptly, I had to find avenues to stay connected with people.
mhm,
I had to find ways to stay connected with individuals. So I gave it a shot. I tried webinars, right?
mhm,
And I think everybody and their mother tried webinars. But one of the biggest problems about webinars is that they're training, number one, but the engagement is not. I'm a people person, so the engagement is not as strong as I would like it to be. I wanted to have conversations,
mhm.
and so the communications department came to me. I had actually done a pilot show with a good. I don't know if you've ever met Mitos, one of our other trainers,
Yeah,
and
sure.
we've done a pilot and we kind of submitted it to GAF. Hey, take a look at what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and all of a sudden, communications comes back and says to a couple of us, "Hey, we want you to do this."
Mhm,
And trainers are great about going and perform and doing what they're at, but sometimes we're like little dogs, right, with the squirrel. We something brighter comes along and we just take off. And I I kept it. I enjoyed it so much that I started doing it. My first one was July of 2020. I did the first one, I did the second one, and it was like a drug. I wanted more and more and more.
mhm,
We
mhm,
started getting busy and busy, and they're like, "Well, I in 2021, I said, hey, you know what? At the end of 2021 to 2022, I said, hey, we might have to stop this because I'm going back on the road." And communications came back and said, "No, you're not. Your show is the number one show on GAF's Facebook page.
mhm,
It drives the most people. It gives us the most engagements that you can't stop." And when I've heard that, it was kind of like a weight on my shoulders, like, oh crap, now I have to do that. But at the same time, it
mhm,
was like, holy crap, what have I done? And it kind of gave me a little bit of gratefulness and peace. And so, you know what? That's what I needed to hear. We're going to continue to do it until people tell me not to do it anymore.
Mhm.
And it's just there's, as a trainer, it's a great opportunity to, you get to train and you get to interview, and you know this, doing this podcast, you get to interview very interesting people
Mhm.
that open up in ways that you never heard or never had conversations like that before. So it's, to me, it's a great thing.
It is. It is. It really is, and it's funny because I've gained so much knowledge and experience, but not just that from doing this podcast, but not just that, but the vulnerability that people share or expose. We've had some really deep dive conversations with people where they've broken down and cried talking about their past and stuff, because some people get real deep, and hence where behind the tool belt came from, the
Mhm.
the man, the woman, the entrepreneur, the leader, the whatever, right, thought leader, behind who is that individual, where did they come from, how did they get where they are today. And that's pretty cool that you said that. But so you started the podcast, you started to impact people. Do you have any interesting or inspiring guest or stories or impact that rings true or has impacted you the most thus far since you started the podcast?
Yes, I've had a few. What I do now with GAF is, it's so what we try to do on our podcast is to do one in English, one in Spanish, right?
Mm,
Twice a
okay.
month.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, I wasn't quite sure because I didn't want to have just an installer come in and talk about, hey, how do you install? And I'm not. I mean, I guess I can say this because I'm Hispanic. I realize that the majority of us in the industry are installers, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I do at GAF is, like, I have this little thing called Latinos in Roofing, where I help Hispanic business owners either grow their business, develop their business, start their business, whatever you want to call it, so that they don't necessarily get off of installation, but they diversify their business into a business owner like you, like yourself, right? So one of my biggest fears was that I was going to run out of Hispanic business owners that I could bring to the show, because I couldn't see the forest from the trees. I couldn't see how many were out there. I was only seeing a few of them. And so one of my greatest experience, and I just did this podcast with him um, last month in October. His name is Christian Flores. It's a contractor in Washington State, outside of Seattle, where um, I knew about this guy 2 years ago. He worked for a company. He started his own business. He was attending trainings, but he was installing and selling, right? He wasn't developed. And I saw him at a couple of events at GAF. And then all of a sudden I see him at a training from another other contractor in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And it hits me. It's like, this guy is motivated. This guy, nobody freaking goes from Washington State to
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky for a training unless they're really interested in growing their business and investing in their business. So I decided to interview him in October. And I was so impressed with what he had become, where I saw him as this is just another guy that wants to, quote unquote, grow his business and maybe fail eventually. I had little faith in him, I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him talk, how he talked, how he presented himself. He told me about his business. He told me about his plans for continue to grow in this business. I mean, this guy had a plan and was executing that plan 100%. And that opened my eye, and it really made me tear up at the moment, because I kind of felt shameful that I wasn't giving him the respect that he deserved. That I thought, let's see if it's for real or not. And he really, without knowing, he really opened my eyes and said, you know what, there's a lot of impact, because he mentioned the show. He's like, I watch the show every month. I watch your show, Alan. I was waiting for you to invite me. and then he obviously he's a GAF contractor. It's like his goal was, I'm going to become a master elite, and this is my plan to become a master elite. I work very closely with my TM, and this is what I'm going to tell my TM. And then he's all of a sudden, because in our show we try to incorporate the guest as the teacher. So we say, hey, what do you have to say? And he starts talking to the audience and starts telling him, this is what you have to do. Don't be afraid. Just do it. And like it sounded like a Nike commercial.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it hit me how impactful the show had been for somebody like him. And here I was just thinking, I'm just doing this so that I can fulfill my commitment to GAF and my audience. And it really made me realize again the reason why I started doing this show, which was to help people change lives and change their lives at the same time. So it was very touching.
I love that. I love that. Great story. We always have that one. Actually, we've had quite a few that stick with me. And Elizabeth Casadilla, she owns a business called Business 411,
Mhm.
and she's an immigrant, and just happens to be an immigrant and Cuban descent. And she told us her whole, like, how she got over here with her family, and they didn't have anything, and she's worked her whole life, and it's such a great story. It was probably one of our best podcasts we ever done. We need to get her back on here now that I think about it. But
Yeah, I just
it
saw her
was
at
so good.
Rifco. I just
Yeah,
thought I've
yeah,
known Elizabeth for a couple of years. She's
yeah,
great.
yeah. She's fantastic, hard worker, perfect example of entrepreneurship from nothing to rags to riches, I guess, for lack of better terms for her. But Corey Barrier actually is in our studio tonight. We have a live studio audience here.
Ooh.
If you're not aware of him, he's moving into the roofing space. You will know him very soon. He's got what is it, Corey? The successful shit, I can't remember his podcast, Successful Life podcast, which is actually the top 2% in the world podcast. And I just so happen to be friends with this guy. Why he likes me, I have no idea. But he drove the whole way up here from Raleigh, North Carolina. But he's got a question in here. What's the biggest obstacle you have seen training and coaching salespeople?
That's I don't see, this is a twofold question, right? I think training them is not hard as far as the actual execution of the training. Um, I help them identify the opportunity. It's what's difficult sometimes, and because opportunity happens to be not in their, and I'm going to be very careful with this. Opportunity is not usually in front of their mind of a salesperson. What's in front of their mind is the need. They're always looking for the need. And if you focused on the need as a salesperson, you're shooting yourself in the foot
Mhm.
right from the start. So for me, the hardest part is to help them see, and usually this happens during the coaching, help them see the opportunity, right? So a perfect example of this is salespeople are very, very impatient.
Mhm.
They want the quick turnaround, right? And depending as to how the business is set up, whoever they're working with, if they don't understand the process of that company and they're only looking at the need, which is very selfish, well, as they should be, they miss the opportunity. And so if they miss the opportunity, by consequence, they miss the need. So the hardest thing to teach, in my opinion, as salesperson, is teach them how to overcome their whatever's in front of them, seeing the opportunity. What is the opportunity, right? Walking away from a sale that does not make sense, right? And the only reason they do it is because of the need. They know that they need that sale. They need the money,
Mhm.
but they don't understand that the opportunity is not there. The opportunity might be three houses down the road, or the next call might be far more worth it, but they don't see that, and they end up making mistakes in the long run. So that's probably my biggest frustration is when salespeople don't understand the difference between need an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen too, and most recently that has become apparent to me was, and I identified this one night we were at a restaurant, and we had a waiter that was just phenomenal, just great service, added so much value to our evening, just was a wonderful experience. So um, most waiters work for, minimum wage or whatever that is. And the bonus is their tip, the value that they add to us, whether, and I'm using the word value because it doesn't matter if you're a good salesperson, you're adding value to somebody's life. You bonus, that's your job, right? Like anybody that comes to work, um, if you love what you do and that paycheck at the end of the week is just tip. So getting back to the story here, I tipped him and we tipped him very well because it was just phenomenal. And that's what we do. We tip if the service good, we always tip, but it was just outstanding that night. And so gave him the tip and we're walking out of the restaurant and he chases me down. He's like, sir, I think you gave me too much. And mind you, I didn't give him $1,000 or anything like that. It wasn't like something ridiculous. It was a decent tip. It was more than 20%. And he was like, sir, I think you overpaid me. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And I just kind of, I've had people thank me. Oh, thank you so much. But I've never had someone actually chase me to the door and say you overtipped me. So my wife, myself, and Rocket, our son, we get in the car and I'm just sitting there and I'm kind of baffled. And for whatever reason, a light bulb went off and I think there's a mental block. What it occurred to me is, and I could be totally wrong in this instance, and most sales, or not most, but a few salespeople's minds, I think they don't. A couple of things. One, they don't believe in the product that they're selling. Two, they feel like they're not adding value to somebody's life. And then three, I think there's like this mentality like I can't afford to give a tip like that, so I can't sell a product that costs that much. So, and I don't know what that's called, but I felt like he was suffering a little bit, like he didn't feel like he was worthy enough, or he didn't give us enough value, or that he couldn't afford a tip that large himself. So he felt like something was wrong there. So when you come across the salesperson, and maybe you haven't, that has like this, and I don't know if you call it like a poverty mentality or a lack of self-esteem maybe or something. When you come across the salesperson that has this mental block and they feel like they're not adding value, how do you overcome something like that when you know they're a good person and they could potentially be a good salesperson?
That's a very good question. I think when a salesperson, and they might be misunderstanding what they are with humility, right? But it's really what you said is very important. They're not necessarily being humble. They're being they're not they're discrediting themselves, right?
Mhm.
They don't think they bring enough value. And so when I run across an individual that's just for whatever reason their self-esteem is not pumped up, they just say, hey, I am a $1 million sales guy and that's all I'm going to be for the rest of my life and I'm okay with that. I ask the question, I always ask the question, why? Right? I
Mhm.
want them to tell me why. Because when they answer the question, you're going to find a lot of good information. You're going to identify where their priorities are, right? And then you can build on their priorities. So if he's telling you, I just want to spend more time with my family, going above and beyond over $1 million, it takes too much time away from my family.
Mhm.
Or you know what, I'm my son's coach, and so doing more than what I do, it takes away from that. Or I get sufficient for my needs. I know exactly what $1 million gets me every year. I know what my salary is going to be, what my commissions are going to be, and I'm okay with that because I want to go. I don't want to work. It's very noticeable in the north, right? I don't want to work from the end of November till March, and I know exactly how much I need to meet. And so when I come across a person like that, and I ask them the question, then it allows me to formulate an opportunity, allows me to formulate a vision for them. The and I don't know if you've ever, Jay was very big in a few years back in the Challenger method. I don't know if you've ever read that book, The Challenger.
Mhm.
The Challenger would tell you that the first thing you need to do is don't come out with a solution, but create some tension, some healthy tension. So
Mhm.
I would always ask, and I always ask this, guys, well, wouldn't it be great if you could spend more time with your family by, what do you like to do? You like to have a cabin, wouldn't it be great if you could do this with your family? Right? So taking what they love the most and letting them see what they don't have. So when you do that and say, you know what, wouldn't it be great if you were to do that? And they will answer, it's like, yeah, but I just can't afford it. And then you will go, well, you could. Let me tell you how. Right? And then you ask the questions. Wouldn't it be great if you could do it like this? What if every client of yours was like this? What if every sale was like this? So you start putting these questions in their mind, and they start like, yeah, that would be great. How do I do that? And so all of a sudden they are the ones asking you the questions. How do I get there? And then it's like, well, let me tell you. And then you leave with the solution at the end. It's like, this is how.
Mhm.
And by the way, this is plan A, plan B, plan C. And so when you do that, when you show them, because like again, we go back to that need. They're focusing on the need for
Mhm.
different reasons. But when you identify the opportunity for them, and you identify the ways in which they can get that opportunity, that individual self-esteem, that individual drive is like it's like you just started that motor again, that passion in them. And all of a sudden there's like, okay, tell me more. Tell me more. How do I do that?
Mhm.
And you take them to the coaching and you show them that it can be done. So we always like to in sales, I don't know if you guys do in training would try a method that's called uh, pain, promise, proof. So we always train with that. We show you the pain. We're going to show you the promise. This is what we're telling. If you follow A, B, C, D, this is what you're going to have. And then we're going to show you the proof. So we're not just don't hear from us. We're going to give you examples where we have seen it work. So you do that with this sales guys and say, okay, pain, you could be here, but you're here. That's
Mhm.
just a fact. That's what and then you show them what they're missing and what the opportunity is. And then you show them the proof. And they're like, holy crap, it works. And then you take them through the coaching, through the work. The idea is that you want them to prove it on them, right? And so you
Mhm.
coach them, you help them, you do follow up, and eventually you start saying, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but everybody does these sales trainings, right?
Oh yeah.
And you go into the sales trainings, you get motivated, you get all these motivational speeches, you go home and you realize all you got was a good time,
Mhm.
but you didn't get anything in return. You got motivated, but you didn't get, okay, what steps do I follow?
Mhm.
What do I do? And there goes $1,200, $1,500 of your time, of your money, and for a good time. Well, let me help you get in that good time. And you don't have to go to my training. Just go, I'll do my training for free. You take that $1,500, and once you make 3,000 instead of 1,500, you can do with that whatever you want. That's the proof.
Mhm.
So I think it's helping them see the proof. It's help them see beyond their need.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Let's dig into this some more. Okay. So give us some examples of some of the training or how you've gotten through to them, and explain to us the 3 Ps. Like give us the whole spiel here.
So I do a very a good training in especially with smaller companies, right? Because the smaller companies, you probably had people that work for you, Ty, before
Mhm.
that probably at one point in their careers with you, they said, you know what, I can do this better and I
Mhm.
can do it for cheaper, right? So
Of
these
course.
individuals leave your company,
Mhm.
right? Somebody came to your mind right now, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, it totally did.
God. So they exist everywhere. They're everywhere, right?
Mhm.
And so they come back to me when I do training, and they're like, why is shingle so expensive? right? Why are sheets so expensive? Why is roofing so expensive? So I have a training that I call that I show them I say let's look at the books. So I start the training is a leadership training, but I start with the numbers, and there's a reason for that, right? So let's pretend that I have a roofing company. So I'm showing them the pain first. Let's pretend I have a roofing company. Allen's Roofing in your market does about 100 roofs a year. Okay, 100 roofs a year. Not a huge company, but just a good, steady company.
Yep.
How do I know how much I need to charge for my roof? And I said, give me some thoughts. So I opened it to the audience and I said, okay, first pain. Nobody wants to tell you their price in front of their peers, of their competitions, right? So first pain, everybody's being staying very quiet. Nobody wants to talk. And so I may just throw a couple of numbers, 250, 350, 500, 650. What's the square? And there's some that, get up and say 650 square. There's others that are like, you're nuts. You're crazy. You're never going to get out of business. You're going to die. Some others were like 450. So I get the average. So, all right, let's do 550 square. So I put 550 square. I said, I have a 30 square house. This is how much the price is. Are you guys okay with that? And they're like, oh yeah. They all nod their heads like, yeah, that's fine. Then what I do is like, okay, let's say if it's true. And what I basically do is I take them through a P&L. I introduce them to a P&L and I said, this is a P&L. We're going to identify the cost of goods. We're going to identify labor and material first. We identify material. I usually have a distributor in my training, and I prepare them in advance. It's like, you don't have to tell me any brands, just tell me a random price, right, for material. So he yells out the number for all material. Boom. Then I ask the audience, how much are you paying your installers for tear up and removal, tear off and replacement? Depending on the market, I heard it as low as $55 per square, as high as $130 per square, right? So I take that number, I plug it into my numbers, and I tell them, by the way, your P&L, your cost of goods, your labor and materials, about 70% of your entire cost. So that's we make the math, we do the math, we make sure that that's accurate. Yeah, this 70% of that. Then we go over the overhead, variable overhead, not so variable overhead. Every overhead's variable. That's a lie. Every overhead's variable. Some of it happens to be more variable than others, right? So gas, vehicles, light, insurance, and we break it down. And then they tell me, Alan, I said, how much is your license in your state? If your state has a license, well, it's $350 per year. All right, but they're like, you're not going to charge $350 per house that you do. It's like, no, that'll be dishonest. What you do is you take the $350 and you break it down by 100 roofs, and you add that cost, dumpsters, taxes, everything. We add everything, right? We break it down. We come out to a number that seems to be at this time. You remember, we have our price up here, and this is where the pain happens. Because they see this price that might be that we came out with 30 squares, $13,000, and my cost it's like 11,000, 10,000. All of a sudden, the pain starts to hit in because they're not stupid. They're doing the math themselves, and they know that that's less than 10% of margin. And all of a sudden, they start. Wait a minute, that cannot happen. Those are not. It's like, guys, you're giving me these prices. You're giving me this cost is your cost. I'm just adding it here. And I asked the question, is this your price? Does that mean that I should charge less, that I should charge 11,000? And they're like, well, yeah. I was like, no. So guys, this number that you see here is simply the cost of doing business. That's your cost. So let me teach you a trick. And we had a lot of sources. We did a long time ago. We had these numbers from the Harvard School of Business, and they gave us 2 percentages. One percentage. They recommend that a business owner, a small business, always adds 20% to their cost, right off the top, because of the variable overhead. You never know if gas is going to go up. You never know if sheeting is going to go up. You never know if permits are going to go up or not, depending on the house. So you always have this 20%. So I said, to these 11,000, you're going to add 11%, 20%. So we do that, and all of a sudden, their eyes come up. It's like, oh crap, that's more than the 13,000. You're right. So now the pain is even more because now they're saying, Nikes, I'm losing money. Like, yeah, you are losing money, but you're not making any money either. So to this number that we just came out with, we're going to have to find a margin. Business 101 says that minimum margin for a business 30% in a residential world. So we add 30%, and all of a sudden this roof is $17,000, $18,000. And they're just baffled. They're like, crap, there's no way. And so that's the pain. What I do with that price, I said, this is a very achievable price. If you have the tools to corroborate that price. If you just show up to a house and say, hey, ma'am, I'm going to do your roof and bring absolutely no value, then you're going to get no value in return. All you are to a homeowner is a transaction. Okay? Nobody cares about, they say they do until you do it. But before that, nobody's thinking about what color of shingles they're going to have on their house. They're not going to look at what warranty they have. They're hoping that you will tell them. And if you tell them that you can give them a roof for $11,000, and then your competition is coming and he's selling them a roof for $17,000, and the only difference between the two of you is the price, so I'm not dummy. I'm going to go with the $11,000. But if you identify the difference between the $11,000 and the $17,000 and what that is, then the promise is you are going to be able to justify and to corroborate your price. And this is how you do it. So we help them to do it. That's the leadership part of it. We go into leadership. You got to think different. You gotta approach different things. The homeowner different. You got to build value in the homeowner in your company. You got to care about who you are in the community. So we talked about from your logos, from your entrepreneurial work in the community, your nonprofit work, your involvement, your lawyer. We even talk about lawyers. We talked about accountants. We talk about manufacturers. We talk about distributors. And all of a sudden, what they're starting realizing, holy crap, I have all this value that my distributor does to me that allows me to do this job on time. Hence, allows me to be very clear to the homeowner when I'm going to start, when I'm going to finish. And that's important to them. And I get nothing out of it because I'm charging $11,000 for this roof. I can put warranties, and these warranties protect my homeowner, but I think that every lifetime warranty is the same everywhere, so I don't understand it. But if I understand it, I can get this price. So the promise then comes and says, okay, if you do all these things, if you build a company based on value, the promise is you are going to get this price. You are going to become profitable. Not only are you going to become profitable, you're going to get more leads. You're going to get referrals. You're going to get more business. You may always do 100 roofs a year, but you're going to make more money than the other guy doing the same number of roofs because you're looking at value. You build a value proposition. And all of a sudden, the light bulb goes on and it's like, holy crap, how do I get it? So that's just a that training takes about 4 hours. So I just gave a big, very quick synopsis in 10 minutes.
I love it. I love it. And you are so absolutely correct, because being in the industry, as long as I've been in the industry, we've come across, I was that guy, the lowball guy, desperate, more so, didn't realize how desperate I was, I guess, or how desperate I probably looked. Right. Didn't realize the value that we were performing. Like you said, it was a transaction, but where I think that's where education, like educating myself on the different parts and pieces and components and the warranties and what differentiates us for the long haul, right? Like, we're in this for longevity. We're not just here to collect a paycheck. We're here to also be able to pay our bills, pay our people, warrant this 5-10 years from now if something does come up, manufacturer defect, workmanship, whatever might be here. And that's like you said, our how we present ourselves, how are we carrying ourselves, right? Do we have nice vehicles? Do we have wraps? Are we carrying the proper insurances, workers' comp on our people, general liability, all of these things, like you said? And I don't think a lot of people understand overhead cost. Like, what is your overhead cost? what does it cost to function? What does it cost to keep the lights on? What does it cost for our insurances, the fuel, the tires, the oil changes, the all of these things that are required to operate and function, to keep your door open every day, for your team members to show up every day and have that paycheck every Friday, right? There's so much more that goes into it than just ordering shingles, having the shingles delivered, tearing the roof off, installing the roof, and hauling the trash away. Like, there is so much more involved in this
Mhm.
than I think everyone realizes. Even those that work for you, I don't think they realize. Especially salespeople. It's like, that's the thing is, like, for a salesperson, and the importance of a salesperson. And I don't necessarily like to use the word sales, because I think anytime a homeowner or anyone thinks of sales, they think of a used car salesperson or something like that. But what it is that the salesperson is so good at their job, and they should be so good at their job, and well trained and educated, so then they can go out and educate the homeowner on the products that we're using. Yes, we can give you a good, better, best option, whether it's a system plus warranty, a silver pledge, or a gold pledge warranty, right? And the prices of that vary because of different parts and pieces and components that go on your roof. But because they're so good and can articulate that message to the homeowner of the value that you are receiving from us, that everyone else around them has jobs, right? The roofers that come out, the service techs, the gutter guys, whatever project that salesperson sold to that homeowner. And then the crew is so good at their job. I was just talking to somebody about this today, and I probably talk about it. And then any of those people that work for me listening to this probably get tired of hearing me talk about this unison. That we're all working in unison, that the salesperson's so good at their job that the production side has a job, right? And the production side is so good at their jobs that the salesperson actually gets a referral from that job, and that there's this ripple effect and cohesiveness, that we're all working as one, that we're not just here for ourselves. And like you said, that selfishness that early on that you were talking about, it's like, we're not here for just me and my family. Yes, we are. At the end of the day, we're here to feed our families, but we're also, and I use the word plural, families, right? Not just your family, but our family. Like, we have become a family. And I know I kind of got off topic here a little bit, but it kind of goes into everything that we're talking about. Like, if we can think outside the box a little bit and realize the impact that we're having on our community, first and foremost, because of the value and the protection that we're offering that person's most prized possession, probably largest asset that they've ever purchased in their life. We were putting a roof, and we are covering not just them, but their entire family. We're protecting them, right? So for the salesperson that might be struggling with, man, I don't think I'm worthy enough. I don't know if I can sell a $17,000 roof, but I can sell $11,000 roof. If they understand, that salesperson understands that value, that warranty, not just backed by us, but by our shingle manufacturer, whether we're here today or gone tomorrow, that shingle manufacturer is going to cover that warranty, whether we're here or not. And that in itself is the value that we are offering, if you know your numbers.
And you just touched on a point. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? The 11,000 is the need. That's what that sales guy's been doing all along. The 17,000 is the opportunity. But think about what it does, other than put a little bit more money in your pocket as a sales guy, which is well earned. Think about the credibility, because he's no longer he's an expert now on his field. He's an expert on his field that's explained to the homeowner, hey, listen, let me tell you how warranty works and how it really works. And so all of a sudden, what is that homeowner going to do? He didn't talk to a typical roofer. He just talked to an expert. And that is another opportunity, because that homeowner is going to go. When I talk leadership in this class, I tell, based on a survey that I did when I was at another company that I worked for, we would research people that would remember the bad experiences and how often they would share those bad experiences, and the people that received the service that they expected, how many times they would share it, and the people that had great experiences, how many times they would share it. And what we found is people that shared they got exactly what they expected, 1 out of 10 will share it. It was expected. Then they got nothing less, nothing more. Boom, expected. When people got less than what they were expecting, it was 9 out of 10 will share the experience.
Mhm.
And when you got more than what you expected, it was 10 out of 10. So either you found yourself on good, very
Mhm.
good, or you found yourself on really bad. And I looked at my own experience. If I get bad service when I call someplace, I don't care who it is, power company, Delta Airlines, whoever, and I get bad service and I get that message, you want to fill out a survey after the call? What do you think I'm doing? I'm filling out that survey. But if I just got what I was expecting, I could care less about the survey because
Mhm.
I got what I got. And so sales guys don't understand that. If you perform better than what they were expecting, your opportunity just grew ninefold. You're gonna tenfold because 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
You're gonna get referrals. It's not a matter of if, it's when, but you're
Exactly.
gonna get them.
No, 100%. 100%. What it's such a great conversation. I see more people in here talking about the nuggets you're dropping, Alan, the good stuff. Someone said good stuff. And this is all stuff that we all should know this stuff, and talk about it more. The impact, helping, you training, those that might be struggling in the areas that they might be struggling, but most importantly, you being able to identify where they're struggling and being able to impact them and encourage them to do better. And it's self-esteem. I think a lot of times, it's like, oh man, I don't think we can sell a roof over $11,000. We need to be at $400. Well, then you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in the product, right? And I think really at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But more importantly, it's like you're not going to be around very long, right? Your company's not going to be around very long. You can't pay good people, right, to come in because unfortunately or fortunately, it costs money to have good people around you to do a good job. That costs money. There's a monetary value to having good help around you. So basically what you're saying is too is that the people around you aren't worth the money that they should deserve to get paid as well because you're not believing in yourself, your company, and the value that you are offering somebody. So, and this is the other thing too, and I think this has become a little bit of a stigma too. Profit's not a bad word.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think so many people get that and stuck in their head, whether it be a coworker, whether it be a homeowner, whether it be whoever. I've had conversations with home builders already, and I have to believe in the product and the services that we're performing for you. There is a lot of labor burden that goes into this, and if you want us here next year to come back and service this work when there's a windstorm, then this is what we need in order to do this. You just got to have courage. You got to have the faith in yourself and the abilities in yourself to be able to perform a job that let's face it, this isn't an easy job. Roofing's not an easy job. I don't care. There's only a handful of insurance companies in the country that will even insure roofing companies because the exposure and the liability is so extrinsic that there's a lot of it. Um, that's not cheap. And if you're running a legit company, workers' comp, unemployment, general liability, those insurances are not cheap, especially when it comes to workers' comp. Once you tell them that we work on a roof, it went from like 10 cents a dollar to 25 cents. 25% of what we pay an individual to get on a roof is what we have to pay for our insurance. So what is that telling you? And we're not going to lie to the insurance company and say, hey, we're just carpenters and we do siding and windows. No, we're a roofing contractor.
And that's a message that's not shared to the homeowner. That
Right.
I'm not gonna say, hey, my insurance cost is an arm and a leg, but just the fact that we're insured
Hmm.
should be a peace of mind for the homeowner.
Absolutely.
And you just mentioned a couple of things. Profit is not a bad word.
Hmm.
I 100% agree. I think profit is a beautiful word. It's the reason of our existence at the end of the day. Yes, we are passionate about what we do in roofing. We love what we do in roofing. but let's face it, it's dangerous. It's not that easy, and we do it, yes, because our families depend on it, if you will, but because nobody else would.
Mhm.
And profit is how we stay safe, we stay liking the business, we stay, we stay where we are, and there's nothing wrong with that. And um, you know we live in a world where ideals are constantly changing, that profit is bad and capitalism is it's evil, and but unfortunately without it we can leave, we just don't survive. I don't care
Mhm.
who you are. It's just we have to provide, and think about how many people you're employing, right? Is
Mhm.
the profit is your part, what you keep as a business, but look at who you're sharing it with, and especially in your company, uh, it's not all your business. It's not all yours to keep. It's you have employees, you have salespeople, you have installers, you have a family as well, but they're all benefiting
Mhm.
from the work that you're doing. And it's not bad. It's not evil. It's not greedy. It's honest work. That's what it
Mhm.
is. And profits, for the majority of the time, reflect that honest work.
Amen. Amen. I couldn't have said it any better than myself. We were at the hour mark here, Ellen. I know you are a busy man. I know you're very important. Your family's probably waiting on you to have dinner right now. But before we get off here, what's one thing that you want to leave our listeners with, our viewers with, some nugget that you want to leave these people, these great people that have been listening to us this whole time?
The thing, just because a little selfish, right? I'm a trainer and I like to have people at my trainings. If you are not attending a training because you feel that you are not working, and if you are of the mentality that if your people aren't working, you're not making money, and that's the reason you're not sending them to training, change that mindset. uh, they are going to be a lot better workers for you. They're going to perform a lot better if you invest in their education. And it might be as simple as attending a GAF training that is free and not having them work for the day, as complex as attending a conference that's going to benefit, that you're going to have to invest money in it. Nobody counts or nobody takes into the return of investment for training,
Mhm.
especially roofers. Roofers, we're kind of, again, we're kind of afraid of sending people to an event or to a training because we're not having working. Or if they don't go to the training, they're not going to be selling. Think about it this way. What would happen if they go to this training? They get one piece of good information that they can use in their sale, and that changes that sale or their future sales by 5%. Just 5%.
Mhm.
If you can see it that way and invest in your people, let them go, let them go train, let them go, send them to conferences, wherever it is. We just came from RoofCon, so a great conference. Do
Mhm.
it. Invest in your people.
Amen. Amen. I love that. Way to end the show here. Invest in your team, show them that you love them. And it's probably one of the greatest investments we've ever done, and that's in investing in our team and going to conferences and attending GAF stuff. So thank you so much, Alan, for coming on the show, brother. Thank you for everything that you do for our community, and most importantly our industry. Because of people like you and pioneers like you and coaches and leaders like you, man, we wouldn't be going in the direction that we're shifting in right now. Thank you for everything you do, Alan. And thank you for everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yep.